up, guys? Welcome to the second episode of the Xicana Boxing Podcast. I guess we can call it the second episode, right? Well, who cares? I know it's Mikey Garcia versus Spence Jr. fight week, and that's all I really want to talk about. But I am going to do a small recap of last Saturday's fights. We had a DAZN card, and then we also had a PBC on Fox card on Saturday. So let's just do a small recap of those to get them out of the way. So in the DAZN card, the most important card, basically the main event, was Dimitri Bivol versus Smith Jr. And if you don't know who Joe Smith Jr. is, he's actually the guy that knocked Bernard Hopkins out of the ring. He literally sent him flying out of the ring and kind of became legendary for doing that alone, regardless of what happens now with his career. After he did defeat Bernard Hopkins, he went to fight Cuban light heavyweight Sullivan Barrera. So Sullivan Barrera actually went down in the first round against Smith Jr., but came back to win the fight by unanimous decision. Now, what we learned from that fight basically about Joe Smith Jr. is that even though he has knockout power, tremendous knockout power, and he has like a killer right hand, anybody with a decent boxing IQ or ring, generalship could beat him, could outbox him. So a lot of people are kind of worried about Bivol coming into this fight because his chin has never really been tested like that. So they were worried about if Joe Smith Jr. landed a heavy right hand, how would Bivol react? But one thing that I tell people every time they praise a heavy puncher is, in order for your punches to mean anything, regardless of how much power you pack behind those punches, they have to land. They have to find a home in the face or the body of your opponent, because you can be swinging in the air with hella power, and what is that going to do? Nothing. It's just going to make you look foolish in the ring, and that's basically what Bivol did to him the entirety of the fight. He had him looking like he was swinging at invisible piñatas with his bare fist. It was kind of ridiculous. And then at one point, Smith Jr. got so desperate that he picked up Bivol and kind of smacked him on the ring, kind of like WWE style. And I think he should have been deducted a point for that. But hey, I'm not a ref. But yeah, he did actually, though, land a really big punch. I believe it was at the end of the 10th round. It was like a second left in the round. And he landed a heavy right hand on Bivol's face, on the side of his face, right as the ref kind of interfered for the end of the round, basically. And that shit left Bivol kind of just standing there stunned. And he kind of shook his head a little bit. And he wobbled to his corner. So that punch had Bivol kind of stunned. It was obvious the way he just stood there right after as Smith walked back to his corner. And honestly, I was shook. I was like, oh shit. Smith Jr., if he comes back in the 11th round just with everything swinging and Bivol still doesn't have his legs back, then we might have an actual upset. And Joe Smith Jr. did come out swinging. He came out swinging to the fences. For the fences or to the fences? I don't know. I'm Mexican. I don't know these lingos in the U.S. But anyway, he came out fucking heavy. And I mean, Bivol was still smart enough. He came right back to outboxing him and won a very, very wide, in my opinion, unanimous decision. One thing I noticed about this fight is Bivol actually respected Smith Jr.'s power, and obviously how could he not? But the times that he would have Smith Jr. against the ropes, shout out to my friends from the podcast Against Ropes, he would actually not continue his attack. Like, he would kind of just let Joe Smith Jr. come out of it and then go back to the middle of the ring. He wouldn't unleash until those last 10 seconds of the 12th round. And if maybe he had started like 30 seconds earlier, I think he would have gotten a 12th round TKO. But he didn't. He just waited till the last 10 seconds to just go ham on Smith Jr. And he had him a little hurt, But I just don't get why he didn't put that much pressure since the beginning. Obviously, I mean, I do get it. This guy can punch, so you got to be cautious. But it does make Bivol kind of seem not interesting as much as the other light heavyweights who are knocking motherfuckers out. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but basically, yeah. A lot of people want Bivol to kind of put the fucking foot on the pedal and finish motherfuckers. He's always like, lately he's been winning by unanimous decision, or, you know, he drops guys but doesn't really end it. So I'm not sure. I think Bivol is great. I think, in my opinion, he put on a boxing clinic and looked pretty great, pretty slick. But I can see why maybe some fans don't appreciate him as much as they would appreciate the other light heavyweights, if that makes any sense. So moving on to the PBC on Fox card, we did have Shawn Porter versus Yordenis Ugas. I don't know how I'm pronouncing his name right. I'm sorry if I'm like butchering his name, but this fight was kind of controversial. At least the decision was. It was a unanimous decision for Shawn Porter, and he retained his WBC title. However, a lot of people on social media, you know, where the experts reside, actually gave the fight to Ugas, and especially because Porter had, I believe it was in the 12th or 11th, I don't remember if it was the 11th or 12th round, but he did have a knockdown that was ruled a slip. And at first I was like, hey, that's a total fucking knockdown, what the hell? But then when you look at it from different angles, it is a slip. His foot slides literally like really fast. And I know obviously because he got punched right in the face right before the slip, I guess, people do see that as a actual knockdown, but again, I'm not a ref. To me, it did look like a slip watching it from other angles. But even then, even if you think Porter lost, you have to give him credit because he has the balls to not shy away from a challenge, one, and two, he fights bigger guys. Ugas is a huge dude, like he's a huge motherfucker. So he's fighting a huge dude who has a heavier punch than he does, and he still retained his title, and at least you gotta give him props even if you think he lost. Now, the fight was really close, and some rounds were really hard to score, so even if you did have Ugas winning, you shouldn't be mad, I guess, at Porter winning because it was really close and it could have actually gone either way. At first, one thing I did notice about the way Porter was fighting is that he's trying to prove that he's more technical now. Like, we're used to knowing Shawn Porter as a brawler, as somebody who just brawls and is aggressive. But I think he wants to prove that, hey, I can box too. And it worked magnificently. That's not a word. It worked tremendously against Garcia. And I admired him way more after defeating Danny Garcia the way that he did. But obviously, that's not going to work with everybody. And I do miss his more aggressive style, if I'm being honest. But at the same time, like I said earlier, this guy's huge. Ugas is huge, so he's not gonna stand there and brawl with the dude that's begging for an actual knockdown. So props to both of them. Props to Shawn Porter and props to Ugas. They delivered a great fight. I think if anything, the controversy kind of made Porter look bad in a way that people are gonna continue to say that he's the lowest, the lowest skilled out of all the welterweight champions, if that makes any sense. Because people, when they talk about great welterweights, they talk about Spence and Crawford, but they don't really mention Porter at all, really. And with Ugas, it's like, okay, now he's got more recognition. People see him as a legit contender, a legit opponent. But at the same time, I think people are not going to want to fight him after this. Other welterweights are not going to want to fight him because it's high risk, low reward, because he doesn't have a belt. He wants a belt. And seeing how he handled Porter, it's going to make people not want to fight him, in my opinion. But there you go. All right, so let's move on to Spence versus Mikey Garcia. Woo! Oh my God, I'm so excited. So I don't even know how to start. Let's just start by going over their most credible opponents, I guess. They both have good resumes, but a lot of people also judge both of their resumes. Most people think that Spence hasn't proven himself to be one of the top welterweights, at least not yet. And with Mikey Garcia, what people criticized about him was that he would fight guys that are journeymen or coming up as champions, barely becoming champions, and he would just go and, defeat them. In my opinion, it's okay, you can say that about Mikey, but at the same time, he's fighting champions and he's defeating champions. He hasn't really ever been an underdog since his comeback, but he's fighting champions. He's not fighting contenders. He's not fighting, guys with more losses than wins. So you got to give him that, even if you think that, oh, well, he's never been the underdog until now. You got to give him that. And Spence Jr., he went I think, in my opinion, Kell Brook is his best win. He went to his backyard and literally fucked up his eye socket. And a lot of people have the misconception that, oh, he just did that because Triple G had already broken his eye socket. No. They each broke a fucking eye socket. Both of them. Different eye sockets. So, just to clear that out, Spence Jr. deserves recognition for breaking the other eye socket. You know, so that was great for him to defeat Kell Brook in that fight in his own fucking turf. And he also fought Lamont Peterson. And a lot of people don't think Lamont Peterson is that great of a welterweight, but he does serve as a good name in your resume. And he's basically fought everybody in the welterweight division, even though he does come up short most of the time when fighting these A-class guys. He is a good name to have on your resume, and Spence has him. So this comeback, Mikey Garcia fought Broner, who a lot of people say, hey, see, he already fought a welterweight in Broner, and he beat him. So he beat Broner. He could obviously beat ERROL Spence. And I'm going to tell you guys later, once we start doing our prediction process, why that doesn't work. But he also fought Sergey Lipinets, who was the champion at 140, and that's the heaviest that Mikey Garcia has fought before 140. And he actually dropped Lipinets and took his title. He actually took his title at 140, and then he went back down to 135 to fight Easter Jr., who, as we all know, made fun of Mikey for not having abs and then got dropped on his ass. And in all those fights, basically, Mikey was a favorite, and he won as he should have, all by unanimous decision, and dropping both Easter and Lipinets. Now, what are their keys to victory? When the fight first got announced, well, I went to Mikey's camp prior to his Easter Jr. fight, and I interviewed him. And at that time, he had already told me, I want ERROL Spence, even though his fight with Easter Jr. hadn't even happened yet. It was about to happen, and he was already mentioning ERROL Spence. And I was like, dude, you fucking crazy, shut up. You know, and I thought it would be a case of the same thing about Linares. He would call Linares out. He said he won Linares, and it just never happened. I think because Linares took the Lomachenko fight because he thought that Lomachenko was an easier challenge than Mikey Garcia. We all know what happened there. All right. But so I thought it was like kind of a similar case. He's just calling him out, but I'm like, okay, boy, yeah, right. And that's why after when it got made, I'm like, no, Mikey, what are you doing? No, don't do it. I was like, no, don't do it. But I think at the beginning, all of us, we all didn't give Mikey a shot. We were all like, he's going to get hurt. He's going to get knocked the fuck out. That's 2 weight classes. What are you thinking? You're already small. You're a little short. We've seen ERROL Spence. He has, I believe, 24 fights and 21 knockouts. So it's like, the numbers are not in your favor, Mikey. What are you doing? But now I think after seeing his videos and how he's working out, he was with Snack, he looks buff now, and it's just like, damn, you know, it makes you think that Mikey has a chance. And the way that he told me that he sees something in ERROL Spence and he does present the biggest threat, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder what Mikey can do. What does Mikey see that he can capitalize on, you know? I think Mikey needs to be really smart, basically fight a perfect fight, maintain his distance with his jab. I know ERROL Spence is a really good jab, but what Mikey needs to do, in my opinion, I'm not a fucking trainer, don't listen to me, you know, but this is just my opinion from watching his fights, is he needs to keep his distance with a jab, get in and get out, and not take that much punishment. Not take unnecessary punishment, obviously. He shouldn't trade. He should be as technical as possible. And obviously he doesn't want to stand and trade with the bigger guy, but basically capitalize on his footwork and just avoid punishment. Obviously he's going to get punched because ERROL Spence will put pressure on him, but try to use his height disadvantage, as most people would say he's smaller, so it's a disadvantage, but do what Pacquiao did. Obviously Pacquiao has way faster hands, but get in and get out. You know, use your shorter size to get in and get out and try to take the least punishment. Mikey also has a really nice left hook that if he takes to the body in the early rounds, he can actually maybe slow down Spence and have Spence actually keep his distance with those body shots. And he needs to just adapt. And we see Mikey does very, very well in the ring. He did very well against Easter by using his footwork and adapting. You know, Mikey does just a really good job at studying his opponent in the first rounds and then capitalizing on every single one of their mistakes. The thing is that, like I said, Spence will be putting a lot of pressure on him. And he has a southpaw stance. So, a todos se les dificulta siempre el southpaw stance. Regardless of who you are, it's going to take you a while to get used to it. And the reason why that's going to be a problem is because the first rounds, in my opinion, are going to be crucial. You have to not just test out your opponent in the first rounds, but you have to, Mikey especially, has to take the best advantage in the first rounds. He needs to go to the body, left hook, maintain his distance with his jab, and really kind of set the pace since the early rounds, because Spence is just going to come at him with a lot of pressure and relentlessness. And I think the thing that's going to keep Spence confident throughout the fight is knowing that he's bigger, knowing that he's way bigger, because I'm not sure that I didn't read the contract, obviously. If there's a rehydration clause, I'm not sure, because we know that Spence is already not huge, but he's a big welterweight. So he's going to be relentless. He's going to go in knowing that Mikey can't hurt him. And I know he says, I don't take any of my opponents lightly or whatever, but when you're fighting a guy who's 2 classes lower than you, you know that there's only so much his punches can do. At least you think so. Especially because he is bigger, he is going to be able to absorb the punches from Mikey better than the other way around, if that makes any sense. And like I said before, a lot of people kind of bring up Pacquiao. Well, Pacquiao could beat the bigger guys, but I think Pacquiao only fought once at 154, and I think that was Margarito, and then obviously all the other guys were bigger than him, but he's fast. He's much faster. So I think if the strength and conditioning that Mikey Garcia did to be faster, that's gonna help him out. But for how long? And that's the thing. For how long can Mikey keep going a perfect fight? And especially with Spence body shots as well, I think he can really hurt Mikey. You know, the whole thing with a small elite fighter can beat a big fighter. But the thing is that both of these fighters are good. See, if all we had to worry about ERROL Spence is he's just bigger than Mikey, then yeah, sure, fucking Mikey can beat him, box circles around him. You know, that's easy. We've seen it before. We've seen smaller guys defeat guys that are not to their level in the bigger weight class. They both have a tremendous boxing ability, and they're both nice on their feet. They both have really nice footwork. It's like I know Mikey in their face-off said everything ERROL Spence can do, he can do better. But again, for how long? For how long can he keep doing a perfect fight? If it was just ERROL Spence size, and again, sure, Mikey can defeat him, but this is a guy that's a champion. And the fact that Mikey has not fought anybody else at welterweight, not even like a test run to see how his punches hold up, to see how he adapts to the new weight before going on to somebody like ERROL Spence, I think, in my opinion, that does also give him a disadvantage in a way. And for those who bring up the Broner fight, they say, well, Broner was basically a welterweight, even though their fight wasn't at welterweight. Broner is basically a welterweight, and he beat Broner. He made Broner look stupid as hell. So he can definitely defeat ERROL Spence. Well, yeah, only Broner is not half the fighter he used to be back when he was 3-division world champ. Basically, pre-Maidana days, he was not the same. He's not the same. He's never been the same. So that, yeah, I mean, I give Mikey props for that, because we know who Broner was, and I guess the threat he can possess if he actually lets his hands go. But that's the thing. He didn't let his hands go. He barely let his hands go against Mikey. And that's not going to be ERROL Spence. I promise you that. ERROL Spence is going to be coming at him hard, knowing that he is the bigger guy. Broner didn't take advantage of his size advantage. He didn't take advantage of his reach. He didn't take advantage of any of that. He just kept going backwards, and the few times that he did land a punch, Mikey came back at him with 3 more of his own. So that's why that doesn't work. I guess it does work in the way that, hey, Mikey is sturdy. He went 12 rounds, but again, it's against Broner, who didn't let his hands go. I think what is going to be the definitive here is going to be the fact if Mikey can take those punches. If Mikey is as sturdy as we hope he is, as sturdy as we've seen him against other opponents, then I think that he can pull it off. He needs to fight the perfect fight, and he needs to maintain his distance and be as technical as he can and avoid Spence body shots, you know. But in my opinion, I'm scared, yeah. I'm scared for Mikey. I do get hyped as fuck when every time I see that promo for Fox, PBC, I don't know, that commercial. Every time I see that promo, the last promo video, I get so fucking hype, y'all. I get so fucking hype. I get lady boners for hours. But I do start thinking about it, and I do get very scared for Mikey because he can maybe get a career-changing punch. Boxing is no fucking joke, and I think this is a high risk, even though it is obviously high reward. It is very high risk, especially against someone like Spence, and we've seen how he fucking knocks out his opponent. So it is scary. What if he breaks Mikey's eye socket? And I don't know. It's really scary to think about. It's also in his hometown, so I don't think he has any business at welterweight unless he would have fought some C-level, B-level guys first, worked his way up. But we know Mikey, he doesn't want to fight you unless you got a belt. He doesn't want to waste his time, basically. But this guy, damn, I don't know how this is going to turn out, and I guess that's the scary part. Now, I've also noticed a lot of people question whether or not whoever wins is going to be the new pound for pound king. And you know, I mean, it's something we can definitely argue, you know, but again, in my opinion, this is my podcast, I'm gonna give my fucking opinion. I don't think it proves anything for ERROL Spence. With Mikey, hell yeah, I should put him up in the pound for pound list, way up. Maybe number one, definitely. But I don't think for ERROL Spence it proves anything. He's just fighting somebody who's smaller than him, and of course he's going to take the fight. He's not stupid. This is a big money fight, low risk for him. High reward in the fact that it's going to sell out his hometown. It's pay-per-view. What does he have to lose? It's very, very low reward, but in like boxing world. In money world, he's going to get a lot of fucking money. But it doesn't prove anything at all. Okay, you beat nothing, not to take anything away from Mike here and make him look, you know, not like an elite fighter, because he definitely is, but there's limits to weight classes. That's why weight classes exist. And I don't think that's going to prove anything for Spence. It's just, okay, good, you hurt this guy that most people already knew you were going to hurt. And okay, can you fight Crawford now? Obviously that fight probably will never happen because of Top Rank. But okay, can you go on and fight somebody else now? You know, someone in your size. How about that? So yeah, if Spence beats Mikey, I don't think it necessarily should bring him up on the pound for pound list at all, because different weight classes. But if Mikey defeats Spence, hell yeah, he should fucking move up and be number one. Or if not number one, maybe number 2 or number 3. I don't know. Top 3. But my prediction is just straight up ERROL Spence TKO in the later rounds. Anywhere from 6 to 12. I think Mikey Garcia is going to come out trying to dictate the early rounds. He's going to look amazing. And boxing-wise, you know, I think he's going to look great. And people are going to be like, oh, see, he's exposing ERROL Spence. ERROL Spence is exposed. But I think as the rounds go on, he's going to start getting caught more and more. And eventually, I think he either takes a knee or he gets dropped and stopped. And in my opinion, Mikey's going to get stopped. And I'm not ready to see it. My heart is heavily with Mikey Garcia, but my mind is with ERROL Spence. I actually even see maybe Robert Garcia throwing the towel in the flag. I see him throwing the towel in and not just waving it around like Kell Brook's dumbass corner. Remember that shit? They were like just waving the flag. God, what's up with me and flags? But his corner were like waving the towel around, and the ref's obviously not gonna see you. The ref is looking at the action in the ring, and I think about that a lot. Like, what were they doing? But I do think that Robert Garcia is actually gonna throw the towel in if he sees Mikey getting hurt, because hey, you don't want your guy, your brother, to get hurt and then career changing way that he might, like I said, break an eye socket or something, and then he can't fight anymore. So that's my prediction. If Mikey pulls it off, I'm going to cry. But I'm just excited. I'm really fucking excited for that fight. Let me know. You just mention me on Twitter or Instagram and tell me what your thoughts are. But fuck, I'm just excited. And that's all I need to say, I guess, about that fight. I'm excited. I'm going to go watch it in the movie theater. I was supposed to go to... I got my tax return, guys, and I was like so fucking ready to book my flight to Texas. But because I'm also flying to the Dominican Republic after I graduate in May, and I'm actually flying to Mexico in December, a bitch is poor and I need to manage my money properly. And honestly, because of my prediction, I don't want to see that shit live. Like, I would cry. So, I'm just like, let me not do that. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Now the undercard is actually going to feature David Benavidez against Julian Love. And we know Benavidez has been he was banned for a little bit for his cocaine, cocaine. He got caught using cocaine. And they took his belt away. And a lot of people were like, man, why? It's cocaine. It's not like a, banned substance. But that's just the rules of the WBC. Don't do cocaine. So he did cocaine. And it sucks because, it's not really a legit reason to, I guess, about a fighter's ability inside the ring. But, again, those are the rules. Now, Benavidez did win the title when it was vacant. And ever since Caleb Plant defeated Uzcategui, they've been trying to say, Benavidez fight Caleb Plant and get your belts back. And it's been kind of trash talk here and there. And I would like to see that. But for now, he is fighting Julian Love. He is coming off a loss to Peter Quillen. But we know Peter Quillen is no walk in the park. And before that, his last fight, I believe, was in like 2018, August of 2018. So who knows how he's going to perform. He has also fought a lot of opponents with more losses than wins, or not more losses than wins, but with a lot of losses, basically. So I think Benavidez should basically just make a statement with Love and and just prove that, hey, I'm here and I'm still ready to get my belt back and come at me, bros. In the undercard, we also have a heavyweight matchup with Chris Arreola against Jean-Pierre. Now, Jean-Pierre is 17-0, 12 KOs, and he's actually, obviously, undefeated, but he's actually a southpaw. So it might give Chris Arreola a little bit of problems. But at the same time, even though Chris Arreola has been kind of not completely in the boxing game ever since his loss to Wilder, he is coming off a win. And I think what's going to be the factor here is going to be the fact that Chris Arreola is more experienced in the ring, that this guy, regardless of he's undefeated or not. And if Chris Arreola does lose to this kid, to this southpaw, I think it would be very telling of where he stands, and maybe he should retire, but that's not my call. I guess he will still make a fun opponent, a nice name to have in your record if you're trying to come up in the heavyweight division. But in my opinion, I think he should beat this kid. But again, who knows? We'll find out on Saturday. We also have Luis Neri. Luis Neri is actually undefeated as well. He has 22 KOs, 24 wins, 0 losses. He's also a southpaw, so he's going to be fighting another southpaw in Mac Jose Arroyo or Mac Joe Arroyo. Not Mac Jose. Who would even say that name? Mac Joe Arroyo. So they're both southpaws. Arroyo does have some losses in his record, and he is 1-2 in his last 3 fights. So I think Luis Neri should put this guy away pretty nicely and hopefully fight somebody with a better caliber in his next fight. This guy only has 2 losses, I think, but I would like to see him against an actual bigger name, and I'm pretty sure y'all do too. And lastly, we have Carson's very own Charles Martin, and he's going to be fighting Gregory Corbin. Now, Corbin is also undefeated, and he is 15-0, I believe, with 9 KOs. And he's another guy who has guys in his resume that he's defeated, but who have like more losses than most boxers should have. So, it's Charles Martin to be remembered. He is a southpaw, but he's a guy that talks so much shit to Anthony Joshua only to get knocked out in the second round. But he is a huge dude. He's 6'5". I mean, most heavyweights are huge, but he's 6'5", and I just remember that about him, that he talked a lot of shit, and Joshua kind of just knocked him out, and Joshua's kind of even laughing in the ring, like, really, bitch, you did all this talking just for me to knock you the fuck out. Well, he knocked him down like a couple times, but, it was obviously waved off, and it was pretty funny. So he's actually going to be fighting, and he's from Carson, from where I go to school, so I guess that just makes it a little bit funny, but I think he should have enough to kind of defeat this guy who's 15-0, and because this guy has been fighting guys with a lot of losses. So it could be either way. Honestly, I don't give a fuck about that fight. It's just going to be entertaining, just because to me, he's that guy that got knocked down by Joshua a lot of times after talking shit, basically. Moving on to tonight's fight, we have Tevin Farmer, and he's actually going to be fighting Jonna Carroll. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's this guy from Ireland that was undefeated currently. Hold on. Okay, sorry. My bad. And he is coming off a draw. But what's interesting about this guy is that he's had a couple of fights, 12 rounds, but before that he was fighting 8-rounders. And I think he's only fought a couple of 10-rounders, but that was before. Like, at the beginning of his career, he did 10-rounders, but then he also did 4-rounders and then 8-rounders, and then he's been doing 8-rounders right before he went to 12, which I think is kind of interesting. And of course, we know who Tevin Farmer is. I'm more excited to see how he's gonna look when he comes into the ring. He's been wearing some crazy ass outfits, looking like Toucan Sam, looking like La Familia Peluche. So I would love to see I'm just more excited to see how he looks. And one thing I really like about Tevin Farmer is his persistence. His perseverance. He was trying to become a super featherweight champion, and he was robbed one time. And it's just like he kept trying, and now he's actually super featherweight champion. And Tevin Farmer is a southpaw, but he doesn't have a lot of knockout power. He is 28-4, 1 draw as well, and he has 6 KOs. I know in this fight previous to the last one, he had talked that now he was gonna start knocking motherfuckers out, but I honestly don't think so. He is more technical. He has a very technical stance. He's a really funny, charismatic guy, but 6 KOs. I don't think, obviously, this one is gonna end in a knockout, because John Carroll also has 3 KOs. So they both have very, very low knockout percentages. Like, I don't know how many fights Carroll has, but he only has 3 KOs, and Tevin Farmer has 6 out of 28 fights. So this is gonna go the distance. Expect it now. And I know a lot of people are trying to say even Tevin Farmer wants Gervonta, and I'd highly advise against it, because Gervonta would decapitate Tevin Farmer, in my opinion. I don't think that's a smart move. I think that he should just fight all the other guys at super featherweight. I think Gervonta would literally decapitate him. Let's not even go there. But hey, he's again another guy who thinks he sees something in Gervonta, but just based on opponents and the way they defeat their opponents, outcome is not looking good. In that undercard, we're gonna have the Irish Katie Taylor, who is making a big buzz in the women's boxing. Woo! And she's actually undefeated, 12 fights, 5 KOs, I believe. And she's going against Rose Villante from Brazil. And she's also undefeated, 14-0 with 8 KOs, I believe. And they are going for the IBF, WBA, and WBO lightweight titles. And I mean, this is amazing. They're going to become basically unified, whoever wins. And we saw Katie Taylor actually fight somebody that was undefeated in her last fight, I believe, too, and she went the distance, but she did manage to get the win, obviously. And I'm really excited to see how she's gonna look against another undefeated fighter. And the Brazilians, they are tough. Brazilian girls look tough as hell, and I'm just ready to see how Katie Taylor is going to look against her, because again, she's been looking pretty fucking great. in her fights, and this is for all 3 of those belts, and I'm really excited to see that. Gabe Rosado is also making a comeback to the ring against Sulecki, and if you don't know who Sulecki is a guy that fought Jacobs, I think after Triple G, or was it after Arias? I'm not sure, but he fought against Jacobs, and he lost a unanimous decision, and he went down, but he actually put up a decent fight against Danny Jacobs. And we all know who Rosado is. Rosado is a warrior. Even if he doesn't necessarily win against the top guys, he leaves it all in the ring, and he's always very exciting to watch in the ring. So I'm also looking forward to this fight, just because, again, Rosado, it makes fights very entertaining. But I do have to say that, you know, because Sulecki is coming off a win, and he went the distance with Jacob regardless of going down, I think he does have an upper hand against Rosado, because Rosado is basically just come forward, and his defense is not the best, and Sulecki, I think, has heavier hands too. Not heavy like knockout power of hands, but he does have heavier hands than Rosado. And we've seen Rosado got a draw against Luis Arias in his last fight, even though they were like talking mad shit about each other. It ended in a draw. And every time he goes against these top-notch guys, he comes up short. You know, he lost to Triple G, he lost to Charlo, he lost to Peter Quillen, he lost to David Lemieux, he lost to Willie Monroe, and then he lost to Martin Murray. And because he lost to Martin Murray and Willie Monroe Jr., that leads me to believe that he's going to lose to Sulecki, because he's kind of in the same tier as Monroe and Murray, if that makes any sense. So he is a warrior, though, so who knows? I don't know how Sulecki's going to take that pressure from Rosado, but the thing is about guys who pressure you is that they make it kind of easier for you to counter and win on points. So there's that fight, and then Luke Campbell's fighting Anthony Young, or I don't know, he's fighting. I don't care who he's fighting, but Luke Campbell's fighting. I don't really care much for Luke Campbell. He lost to Linares, and then he just won a fight. And if I'm not mistaken, they had said that he was going to become Mikey Garcia's mandatory. And I'm like, let's not do that. That's not a good idea for Luke Campbell, but you know, he's going to be in that card, and that's kind of a name that people know, especially in the UK. So Luke Campbell's going to be in this card, and he's fighting a guy that's 26-5. So it's not like, you know, I mean, good luck to him, I guess. So that's basically it for this week's fights, or this weekend's fights. And I'm just very much looking forward to Mikey Garcia versus ERROL Spence. I'm going to go watch that shit at the movie theater, because I'm not paying $70 or however much. And, you know, Fern bought my ticket. Shout out to Fern for buying me my ticket. But I'm just going to be throwing popcorn all over the place. I already know it. I'm going to be crying in the movie theater. But I'm very excited. I know a lot of people care about pay-per-view numbers. I don't know. I honestly don't understand that. There's a lot of people on Twitter that are like, let's see how many views it's going to make. And I just honestly never got that. I never get people's obsession over numbers or how many pay-per-views does a fight get. I don't get it, but I don't know. All I know is I'm gonna go watch in the movie theater, and if you don't want to order it at home, I suggest you do look up movie theaters around you that may have the fight. And also, hey, if you have friends, I don't have friends, so I can't do this, but if you have friends, you can actually be like, hey, let's order the fight and Venmo me like $10, and if you have like 10 friends, then you can have each Venmo you $10, and then you can pay the fight, and then you can provide snacks, or everybody can bring your own snacks, bring your own beer. And if you have friends, that works out pretty great. So that's how I remember when we were little, when we watched pay-per-view fights after the black box got canceled, and you know, but after that we actually had to order them. But we would invite a bunch of people over, and then we'd not only pay, you know, divide the cost, but also play that raffle game. Let's see who wins, who the fuck gets the winning round. And that game was pretty awesome. But yeah, do that. And if you don't have friends like me, go to the movie theater. But again, thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Obviously, this one is longer. I am working on my audio. The reason the audio sounds like this because I do have a microphone. Obviously, I do interviews with it. But my MacBook Pro doesn't have a fucking microphone jack. It just has a audio jack, and it doesn't really recognize my microphone. And then I have a USB microphone, but also this shit doesn't have a USB portal, and my adapter broke, of course. So all this shit happened at the same time, and I already had one ordered for me on Amazon, but I'm gonna order something so that I can use my interview microphone, because that's the best microphone that I have. I don't know why I'm rambling on about this, but thank you so very much. And I'm not going to tell you guys to follow me on social media, because I'm pretty sure whoever's here listening are from social media. You guys got here because of my social media. But just in case, my Twitter is LA10Lily, Instagram Xicana.boxing, so Xicana.boxing, and then YouTube Xicana Boxing, and obviously XicanaBoxing.com, because I am also a writer. So go check out my content, and thank you guys for listening. And if you want to shout out, I think I want to start doing shout outs, because people have been like commenting on my shit, and it makes me feel special. So I'm just gonna give you guys shout outs. Yeah, so just let me know what you think of the fights, where you're gonna watch it, and follow me and rate 5 stars and subscribe. I don't know how this works, but yeah, thank you guys. Bye.